I'm Katrina Walker. I'm the CEO and founder of CodeOp. CodeOp is an international tech school for women, as well as trans and non-binary folk. We're based out of Barcelona, and our mission is to diversify tech. So we do different types of events like this to try to educate folks on what's happening in tech. And so tonight we're talking about product management. And to help facilitate the thinking and to learn, we've got three lovely guests joining us. And so just want to point out real quick, I've flushed out a series of questions, all from the perspective of someone who doesn't know much about product management. If you have more questions, and I hope you do, as mentioned, feel free to just shoot it in the chat and we'll incorporate the questions informally as we move along. Second point for the speakers. Let's assume that there's no objective truth or one truth to the questions that I'm asking you all, meaning I totally invite you all to have different opinions that can contradict one another. I think that's nice to show the sort of richness of the field. So we can agree to disagree, should that happen. Maybe we all agree with each other, fine. So let's first orient our listeners to who you are. And so the first question is, who are you? Where are you? And what is your current role? So to kickstart it, let's start with Romina. You can introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you, Katrina. I hope everyone can hear me well. I hope so. Yeah. I'm a senior product manager at the Lead Tech Group, which is a technological SaaS solutions company in Barcelona. And we are mainly focused in SaaS solutions for the B2B environment. In my case, I'm in a payment API project, which is basically a payment gateway API. So we are providing, in my case, it's product management focused in APIs and technological environments. So quite technical. And I think it's going to be good to hear also other industries. So
cool. Thanks, Romina. Eduardo, where are you? What are you doing?
Hi everyone, currently I'm in Madrid. I don't know for how long. I'm Eduardo. I'm a lead product manager in a fintech startup in Berlin. And what we do is we offer like banking products to non-banking organizations that want to offer like financial product to their users. And yes, that's mainly it.
Cool. Thanks, Eduardo. How long have you been actually? Okay, well, we can go along later. Fernanda, what's going on? Where are you at?
Hello, I'm currently in Guatemala, going back to Barcelona soon. I currently work in product marketing at the Book of Everyone. We're an e-commerce with both physical and digital products. And I also collaborate as a product manager in Variant Work, which is a digital product agency based in Barcelona.
Cool. Thanks for coming, everyone. Fernanda, since you're unmuted, let's start with you. So how long have you been in the industry? And what were you doing before product management? What did you study? Where did you work, etc.? Give the folks some context into your background.
Yeah, so I've been working in the digital industry like about 7 years now. The first 6 years of that has been mainly working in digital marketing roles. So everything from paid acquisition, email marketing, and digital campaigns in general. But the past year, I started getting into product management. I did a bootcamp here with CodeOp, and that's where I started like getting more product responsibilities in my current position, and also like helping and collaborating with other projects outside work.
Cool. I'll dig in deeper with questions further down now as to why you decided to go that route. But let's get the full spectrum. So you're more of a newbie to product management. Romina, how did you get into the industry? What were you doing before?
Yeah, actually, my background, I studied industrial engineering, so it's a bit related because in this sense, product management involves a lot of management itself from a structural perspective. So I decided to first try consultancy actually in the financial sector. And I found there that I wanted to do product management because it's about finding efficient solutions. So I started involving myself since 6 years almost in startups, actually, fintech startups, starting by Unax, which is a payment solutions platform. And actually, I started with them when we were building the project from scratch. So I've been, managing the product since constructing all the infrastructure, using serverless, cost-efficient solutions, and currently I'm still in that path of fintech dynamic environments with different product people and engineers. So yeah, I decided to involve myself. I'm a bit senior, but I still, I'm in this world. You can learn a lot, and depending on where you land, maybe you've been only 2 years, but you've learned like an experience of 10, right? I mean, if you involve yourself in startups, you end up like being very hands-on. So
Totally. Cool. Eduardo.
So I've been working in the tech industry and product field like for about like 10 years. Me also, I have like a business and finance background. So I started my career in investment banking, but I very quickly and fortunately moved to tech. And then I think, I had like product roles that were more analytical based. And then I gradually moved to more like product management, where you are actually managing like a engineering team and who are like developing like the product that you envision. So that's how my role kind of changed over the time.
Cool. So I'll speak for myself, and I'm originally from San Francisco Bay Area, and I, despite being from there, wasn't working in tech. Actually, I moved to Barcelona and got into tech, but I've been around it my whole life. And I didn't know about product management until actually I started working as a data scientist here at eDreams. Even then, I didn't interact much with the product managers. So it wasn't until we put together a boot camp in product management and I saw the presentations of our students that I started learning more about the field. My assumption is that this is new, and I think it's interesting to get a little historical context about. So the question is directed to the more senior PMs here. Can you give us a little historical story about where it came from, how it evolved? Any fun historical facts for us?
yeah, in my case, I can say that I think that product management actually it always existed. It's just it didn't have a name before. So yeah, actually since HP and all these old companies since the 1930s, I think they already were doing this type of roles, but they were named in different departments, right? So I think since we have inventions actually and discoveries, I mean, even scientific say so, right? I mean, your inventions, they need to be managed. So it's something that I think there's always been there, but it's never been recognized enough from my perspective.
When do you think that it started getting that recognition?
In the last decade with technology.
Right. Yeah. Anything what do you think?
I think if we want to have like the fun fact, I think it started from the FMGC like industry. So it was more like a marketing term. When you look at the history of product management and where like this come from, so supposedly it's from an executive in Procter and Gamble, and he wrote like this memo where he discussed about like the need of more having like brand men, so very inclusive at the time already, and the necessity of having like someone who have like the overview of an entire like brand. So about like sales, about like product creation, about like the marketing. And I think that's where then it's derived. And now we have, as Romina say like very correctly, seeing like a boom in product management. Even if you just do like a Google trend, you will see like how is jumping. And I think it's also because of the tech industry. So now we have like product management in tech, which is the one that have like more focus currently.
Okay, cool. Okay, so it seems to be a really diverse field, and I'm not even talking about, you know, the various domains, but you know, there's product designers. I've heard product managers, product owners, product analysts. Can you give us a sense of how would you define product management, and how does it really translate in the structure of a company? And maybe there's obviously not one way, but just give us a sense of how rich it is.
I don't know, Fernanda, if you want to go on. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like, is the way I see it is like this key role in helping organizations deliver successful products, working in a strategic part, also making sure like what's being built, like the execution part is going well. And also when launching that product, taking the learnings from customers and making sure you are improving your product and that you're satisfying that market.
Yeah, to me, it's to find actually the perfect balance between business, UX, and tech. Like, I think you're the middle person there. And of course, you don't need to be a technical background. You don't need to be, you know, good in maths or marketing. But I think you need to be to know the basic about each department, you know, the necessary knowledge about each department, because actually you're going to be the one communicating and aligning the stakeholders. And for sure, you need to challenge them. So that comes, you know, with the role. That's why I think that when you decide to go into this role, you also need to know that you're going to fight, you know? I mean, you need to have this attitude of, I'm going to challenge your department because I'm here for that. Otherwise, I mean, everything would be, you know, a product fit, everything would go on and everything would be in the roadmap, right? So I think you need to have these interest skills and also to know about data. I think it's fundamental to understand KPIs and data, basic knowledge about UX, about how business works, and also the needs of the technical team, which actually are crucial. I mean, and I think still there's a lot of work to do in terms of giving the necessary importance to the technical team in big companies. And yeah, I don't know if Edu.
So yeah, I think like both, how do you say, definition of PME are complementary and they're like ideal. It's one, as Romina really well said, is like combination of UX, business and tech, and like a very overused analogy is like you're a conductor of an orchestra, and like the orchestra is actually like those three different teams. And knowing that products sometimes they are not like enough, how do you say, they don't have like enough power into the organization, but normally you are in charge of making sure that what the company produce makes sense in terms of business goals and also in terms of customer needs. So your ultimate plan and your ultimate goal is to produce a product that have like success and that meets your company goals.
Cool. So what does your product team look like? How is it? So you have a product manager, you work with data scientists, you work with developers, you work with someone in the agile team. Can you give us a sense of the composition?
Me, I think it, so I've been working in different startups and it's changed a lot. So
Cool.
for example, you were like, oh, product analyst, product owner, product manager. I think like everyone, let's say even myself, is like misusing like the terminology because no one have like idea. So even like, actually maybe it will be like for a different topic, but it's true that now you see a lot of roles that are targeted as product manager, but they are not product manager, but it's just, okay, before in LinkedIn, they will put it like as business analyst, but it's not as sexy. So now I will put it as a product manager. But if you look at the description, they don't work with like the tech team, or they don't have like I don't know, possibility to establish what like the roadmap will be, and that it's not like a product manager role. But usually, so most of the time in tech, it's agile teams. So you will work in any agile like framework you want, like Scrum or etc. You will work like very closely with the tech team. It depends the size. So I've been working with a tech team of like 20 people and then like 5 people. And then you will, as Romina very well said, then like part of your role, of course, you have your team, so product management team, like tech team. But then, of course, most of your role is interacting with a lot of different departments. So either internal stakeholders, so like marketing, sales, operation, or either like external stakeholders. It can be like clients, it can be like the end users. And yeah, that's it. And then regarding like product team itself, like product. So sometimes it depends. It's sometimes you just have like one PO and they have like their own tech team. And sometimes I've been working in tech teams where you all have like 3 product manager, you all have like the same tech team, and you just try to see, okay, how do you divide yourself, like the work? Do you work divided like by features? So you will work on this feature and I will work on this feature. Do you work on the same feature but focus on different areas? Sometimes you have like hierarchy. So this really depends on the organization.
Yeah, in my case, currently I'm also in a very technical team of 20 people, and it's composed of engineers like QA, front end, back end, full stack. Then also the UX department, and also there's always a technical lead or an architect, which I think it's essential, because otherwise the product manager can actually, go crazy, because if you need to speak to all the engineers, it's not effective. So for me, it's important to have a leader in each group and stakeholder. That also includes the product management department. As Edu said, if there's a large group, you need more product managers to divide into squads. Otherwise, you're not going to be efficient. And the last thing you want is to be the bottleneck of the team. Because if you increase the engineer size, the marketing, the business, and you don't increase the product department, you're going to be, the worst enemy for everyone. So
just so there was some jargon in there. Squad. What do you mean by squad?
for me, it's product lines, like different product leaders for different type of products. And this also involves different methodologies. Like you can have a product in which you are working Kanban, because maybe you're innovating, it's MVP, you're doing prototypes. But at the same time, you can coexist in the same project with a standard product, which maybe needs a Scrum methodology, right? And a different mindset and different way of approaching the strategy. So I think that you need a product manager every time that you have, for example, a consistent size of a team of engineers and a different product line or methodology that you want to launch, right?
Fernanda, anything to add to that?
Not really, just in my experience, because I work in both projects. We are like kind of startups. Just so everyone knows, like it's not always the case that you work in super big teams with with 20 engineers. Like I currently work with I think 3 engineers. I collaborate also with people from data science and talk to customers, and also keeping in touch with customer service, as well as talking with the stakeholders as the CEO and people like that.
Cool.
And one thing I will add, and that how do you say, bounce on what both say, is according to the size of your team, then potentially you will need like different skills, because as Romina said, like, oh yeah, I also work with like a UX UI team. So I've been in some place where you don't have like those people, and then like this kind of skill set falls into like the product manager. And therefore maybe like, I don't know, you will have like a job desk that ask, okay, you know about like Sketch or InVision, blah blah blah, whereas like you have other roles where you have like a dedicated team to that. where you have like a designer who will do all the designs, where you have like UX researcher who will be like doing all the customer interviews, etc., and they will do it for you. Whereas like sometimes you have like smaller teams where you have to take on these roles, and this can even be the case for tech roles. You know, when it's like very, very small, like a startup, they start and they just have like a CPO who is basically the team with someone else.
Oh.
Then they will take a lot of the roles from an original like bigger product team.
I have to say that I'm sure Edu and Fernanda agree with that, but Katrina, I have to say that not everyone can be a product manager. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, in terms of what you're expecting, and your personality, because as Edu says, like for example, in my previous experience, we were a small team when we started, and I had the title of CPO, but I was the only person in the product department, right? So in the end, you need to do everything and just make sure that you are actually moving onwards and be a hands-on.
Yeah.
And you need to have this attitude that I'm going to do whatever it comes, and whatever they throw at me, even if it's product management task, or maybe I have to manage, a part of my time in the UX area. So you need to have this personality of being open, to whatever it comes, I think.
That sort of feeds into my next question, actually, which is what skills make you a badass PM?
For me, it's to be a good negotiator. Regardless of the size and the company, I think you need to be like the godfather, you need to negotiate and sell your story for every department to actually, make a common solution. So it's actually, you need to sell your product strategy and roadmap to everyone. I don't know what they think, but
Yeah, I think I was gonna say communication skills in general. I think it's super important to like know how to talk with different people from different roles, because if you're working with tech people, like they talk different. Their way of working is different. As in with a customer, you will have other kind of attitude towards them and all of that. So it's like you're wearing different hats, and you have to like tailor your communication to each of those roles.
Flexibility, communication, ability to negotiate.
Yeah, I think maybe you're going to ask about it like later, but it also depends on the type of product manager you are, because now also when you were asking about like, do you see a change in the trend of product management? I think now there is more and more like specialization.
Yeah.
You will have like a data manager, or like data management product manager. You have like a growth product manager. You have like a API product manager, as Romy say. So for some of those more specialized like a type of product management, then you have like very concrete skills. But then I join what they both say, that in general, I think regardless of the type of product manager that you are, you will always need to be able to influence people. You will always need to be able to communicate well and changing your speech according to your audience. As Fernand say, I think also like having basic analytical skills is very important, because in the end, like you will have to track like metrics, like your KPIs and how is it going. And yes, I think like the most common skill are more soft skills, more or less. And then according to the type of PM, then sometimes it's more like hard skills.
Cool. What are some myths that you've heard associated to product management? Let's dispel them.
Go on, Fernanda.
Well, I think for me, because I'm new to this and I'm been like looking around many places, checking different jobs and everything, is the fact that I don't know why, but all like product managers, like job positions, they tell you that you need to have like 10 years of experience or 8 years of experience and stuff like that. Whereas for me, that's like more maybe a VP or a director or something like that. I don't think you need like 10 years of experience. Also, like the role, like you said, it's like new. It's from the like in this decade. So how are you gonna have like 10 years of experience?
Right.
Yeah, for me, it's more about requiring always a technical background. And I can say it from a technical background that you don't need a technical background. Actually, I know like great product managers, quite senior, and actually they have been, maybe they studied psychology, or so it's very interesting the types of backgrounds you can see in great product managers.
Cool. Eduardo, any
No,
myths
yeah,
to
just to
disrupt?
jump on that, it's true that sometimes when I was saying like a specified type of product manager, sometimes you also have the same thing, but according to the industry, in the sense that maybe you have been working as I don't know, customer support, but you have been working 10 years at customer support in the travel industry, in booking.com or something like that. And therefore, maybe you will be a very good candidate to be like a product manager within the travel industry, because you will have like this customer understanding. So I believe the same as Romy, that you don't need like a tech background, and sometimes you can leverage your experience in a certain type of industry because you will have the understanding of the customer, you will have like the understanding of the market, and these are very good basis to start on product management.
Okay, so that kind of goes into another question I have, which is what are some of the pathways of getting into product management? So if you think about the various product managers that you've worked with during your experience, what are some of the entry points?
I think like an entry point, but I think it's the same for any role. So entry point number one is always within your company, because you already work there, you already know the product, you already, how do you say, if you start being interested, you can already like start talking with the product management, see if you can help in any way, like from your team, and you can already showcase like some of the skills that we just mentioned before. So stakeholder management, communication, negotiation, and there it's much easier for you to build your case to move internally, because as Fernanda say, like sometimes they're like, yeah, we need like a 10 years experience product management. So it's kind of hard. And also sometimes, so I will say like for sure, always internally. And then sometimes they have like roles which are within tech and more like project management. And then from like tech product management, you can maybe like turn into like product management. But to be honest, I believe, and again, as same Romy say, like any type of career you can from any type of career you can transition to product management.
Yeah, actually, as I mentioned also before, Katrina, that this role is new, but that doesn't mean it didn't exist, you know?
Right.
So it's just that now it's recognized. But before, there was always this person in a group that made the leadership proactively, you know, that person that wanted to align the interests, the solutions between departments in every company. So I think it's more about having this attitude more than having, you know, the title. So if we go back to where we come from, actually, it's more about that person that actually shows every day that it needs to be aligned, set up different meetings between departments, involves, you know, in different types of areas and subjects, and just, I don't know, like learns about other departments, right? So even I can say it's more, as you said before, a bit of a CEO within your area or your department. So more about attitude, I think.
Yeah, certainly we've had students or prospective students who have said, you know, I never knew about product management, but if I look at the job description, it's like what I've been doing my whole life.
Yeah, it's like a CEO, yeah.
You know, but maybe there's a little insecurity because they haven't had that title, and maybe they're worried that there's some jargon that they don't know. So this is some interest why, for example, people want to get some more formalized training so they can feel more confident. Fernanda, so what has been your point of entry?
So I did the code of a full stack development bootcamp 1 year ago because I wanted to get into tech. Then I realized I like it, but I realized I didn't want to be coding all day. I heard about product management. I started like learning about it, and I realized that's more what I wanted to do. So I follow up with a product management bootcamp. And
we can't get rid of Fernanda. She keeps
no. I'm always here.
Okay, so you went the bootcamp route, and now what's
and now it happened like Edu mentioned, like I started getting more like responsibilities within my role for more product related tasks. And I also like got introduced because of the bootcamp to somebody else who was working already in product, and like he took me in as a collaborator. So I started I'm working with him like in product management projects.
Okay. And I mean, what does it look like if you're a junior, you know, and you want to get into product management? Is it difficult? Are there internship programs? What do you guys recommend?
I think for me, like as a junior at the beginning, it looks scary because it's like this, it sounds like this big position everywhere and these years of experiences and too many technical terms. But once you start talking with people, you realize like it's something doable, and what you need to do is like be out there networking, like find some mentors and people that can help you, and then you will realize like it's something doable, like anybody with any background can do it, like Edu said.
Yeah, and also I think it's important that if you have the chance and you have a product department in your company, sometimes it's like Fernanda says, like you need to do it yourself. But if you are lucky and you have this department, that I think more and more it's you know something that is ongoing in the companies, I always suggest to actually talk with the head of product or the senior product or the CPO. Maybe the CPO it's more into other types of, you know, strategic decisions, but maybe, you know, if you schedule meetings proactively with head of product, senior product managers, even from different departments, I think you can learn a lot from their experience, methodologies, tools. In my case, for me, it has been, you know, a shortcut actually to learn a lot of things and even to prepare meetings, right? So for me, it would be something that I would take advantage of if I have that in my company.
I think like Katrina, you mentioned something which is very valid in the sense like when you're doing like a boot camp or maybe like a course, it also allow you to understand like all the different like jargon and methodologies, and then you are able to match that with your own career path, and then you are able to market yourself like correctly, because you will see that a lot of the things that are from product management you already did them in other roles. That will help you to market yourself like differently and just like showcase that your previous experience you already had like tasks that were very close to a product manager. And then when you say like what you would suggest, are there like internship roles or like when you're just a junior? I will say, well, I don't know if unfortunately, but it really also depends on your location. So I know like, for example, in London, if you look at all the big like tech startups that are like growing crazy, and you look at product managers, some of them just graduated from university, you know, and it's just they have like so many like needs that they will have a lot of product manager, and one product manager, I don't know, at Revolut will focus on the little section, this button, you know, and they will be like very focused on something. And then over time, they will have like they will be in charge of bigger features. But I think there are like certain startups and certain markets where they are much willing or open to attract like very young product managers.
Cool. Yeah, this was one of my questions I had is if you could make a distinction of the responsibilities that a junior would have in comparison to a senior product manager.
I think Fernanda can actually, from her experience, say better.
From the junior perspective, eh?
Yeah, from a junior perspective. And what I understand is like that in senior positions, you're more like in charge of the whole vision and strategy. Whereas if you're in a junior position, you will be managing more day-to-day stuff. But I think you folks can tell it better.
Yeah, I think, as Fernanda says, that you're more focused when you're a junior in, which is also necessary, of course, to do, to perform tasks, especially in the sprints, for example, more, you have more time to actually open your laptop, to say it in some way, and do something, In my case, I have to say, I miss doing that, which is curious, because I'm all day with meetings. Like, I think now it's like, before it was like, oh my God, I have so many meetings that I don't have time to actually work. But now with time, I've understood that that's actually part of the position, like to have these kind of meetings. And that's something that when you're senior, you're more focused in the strategy. And to build a strategy, you need to, especially now with the COVID, it's been overwhelming, the amount of meetings in my case. But they're all necessary. I mean, so you cannot skip them.
Okay. What do you really enjoy about product management? And on the flip side, what do you enjoy less, meetings aside?
Me, I will say like, well, it depends, because you might not have the chance, but usually I try to work in a company where I like the product, and therefore it's very exciting when you're like working on a project of something that is going live, that people are going to use, and you're actually passionate about it. So I think like, it's something that will bring you, maybe not joy, like it's a strong word, but at least like excitement every day to know that you're working on something that you enjoy and that other people will be able to test. So this for me is a very big part, the product itself. And then I will say I really enjoy working in tech and working, as Romy said at the beginning, with a lot of different stakeholders. I think it's very interesting to have like the perspective of engineers. And also, as she said at the beginning, I really like when you have like empowered engineers who can have like take part in the decision process of the product, because I come like from finance and business, so they have like a totally different perspective for me. And I think like this ability to talk with people with a lot of different background is very rich for you, for your learning process.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, I agree with Edu, actually. So.
Yeah, for me, it's the same, like working with different backgrounds is just like Edu said, like so valuable, like you learn so many things, like a bit about UX, a bit about software and stuff. So yeah, I think that's the most interesting part for me too. Okay,
but is it all roses? There's always things we don't like about our job. I had 27 meetings this week.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you like less about your
Actually, in my case, as you say, Katrina, is the amount of meetings, because actually you finish a meeting, so you have this list of tasks that you need to do, but you cannot do them because you have another meeting. So it's like a bit of a loop, right? So in the end, you have to like be a bit strict. And actually, I started to block in my calendar times and spaces in which I'm not accepting meetings, because I need to then develop, what's been discussed actually, because if you don't do it, then you are the bottleneck of the team. So I decided to block these time slots actually to work. And then also the fact, as I mentioned before when we were starting the meeting, that I think you need to always be or try to be in your best mood with everyone, at least in my case also, because you need to coach the team, and support and be positive and be energetic and say, this is going to come out, guys, you're doing great, blah, blah, blah. Then do the one-to-one sessions. And sometimes maybe you're having a crappy day, so that's challenging, I think.
Sure. Do you want to add anything, Eduardo?
Yeah, me. So let's how do you say? Talk about the worst case scenario, like something which is very bad, like hopefully. But I feel like the worst part is in some organization, like product is not really empowered, and you reach a certain like ceiling where, okay, supposedly you are in charge of the product, but really you're not, because it's decided by like C-level, and C-level has like different strategy, and they don't really follow also like the product mindset, which is, okay, let's test stuff, see if it's working, be close to the customer. And they're just like, no, but I don't like this, so I'm the CEO and I want like this done like that, and because it's like this. So I feel like this is not that unusual. I think what is unusual if it's like the extent of it, but like you will always have like this constant fight of, really am I like the CEO of the product? Because I feel like what I'm just like executing a vision of like management, and I don't think like this vision is really makes sense within like a product perspective. So this can be very frustrating. I've seen like people leaving their product management position for this, because they were like tired of like fighting and saying like, I don't think this makes sense product wise. So yeah, like this can drive a lot of frustration. And then very similar to what Romy says, I think there is one part where you are kind of like the canalizing person for all the frustration of everyone.
Yeah.
So like the frustration from the engineer team, but they're like, yeah, like you so this happens a lot. No, you are working on a project and then it got like canceled by the management, and they're like, okay, this is no longer priority, or we are closing this market, and they just have been working like, I don't know, 3 months on it. And then they're like, yeah, product, you never know what you want to do. Like 3 months working
It's
on
not
this,
defined.
and then we never like push it to production. And you're like, yeah, I know, but sometimes you have to think in like bigger schemes, in like, company goals, in what makes sense, like for revenue wise, etc. But no, you will be the guys that blame. And then you might have like the same thing, like for the business part, they are like, yeah, we have like this unrealistic like provision that makes no total sense, but we already agreed with them, like with like investors. We knew from the beginning that they won't happen, but why are they not happening, Eduardo? Like why didn't you produce and release this? Yeah, because we already know it was not possible, but you will have this. And I think sometimes it can be hard to be like the person who keep like all
Punching
this
back.
punching back. So I think you have to be very strong and also be good at not taking stuff like too personally, because you will canalize like most of the frustration of a lot of different teams.
Very insightful. I have to say too that, I mean, it's easy for me to draw a lot of parallels to what it means to be a CEO. Just based off of what you said, Eduardo, as well as, when students present their final projects, it reminds me of when I was pitching to investors. And so I'm curious, because in our next cohort, actually, we have quite a few women who have launched their own companies. Have you come across on your product teams any previous CEOs? Because, I mean, let's be real, the majority of startups fail. And so if you're thinking about like what would be a good role if I want to, stay in tech, product management seems kind of obvious.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah,
it's quite parallel, yeah, as you say. Yeah. And actually, that's the adding to what Edu was saying before. I think it's a risk when your manager, your top manager, doesn't understand what product is and what product management does, right? Because as you say, if you're a CEO, you can relate to a lot of things, right? But if you are, for example, I don't know, the business director and you don't have this experience, it can be frustrating because they don't understand, what's going on and how can you actually struggle, right? Being in the middle of everything, right?
Absolutely.
But when you mention like from CEO to product, like in my last company, I had one guy who was, but I think it's also because, as we mentioned before, when you're like very small company, when you're CEO, maybe like you're also the CPO and you're kind of everything. So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But there was this guy who was CEO of Box. So in Spain, it's kind of like a famous startup that allow you to book a weekend and you don't know the place. You just say like, okay, this is the weekend I want to go somewhere. And then last minute, they tell you like the destination. And I think it's quite successful. And he went from there to like a product role within the company.
Cool. Do people graduate from MBA programs and then start careers in product management? Have you seen that path? No. There's a product school, for example, that says it's like, the way they brand themselves is like the new MBA. You can get the same information, but it's less expensive.
I think it's different from like some companies. So I know, for example, like Amazon, they love like MBAs. So I know a lot of people who like the usual path, no? You're at McKinsey and then you're like tired of McKinsey and you're like, oh, I'm gonna change totally. And you do MBA, you end up in Amazon. So this like I saw like many cases like this or other like big companies, maybe like Google or stuff like that want this type of profile, and because also maybe it's like very like senior position. But if not, I don't know, because me myself, like if you want to move to product management, I really don't think the best return on investment is doing an MBA. Like if you already have it clear, I'm not saying like if you've done an MBA and then you want to do product management, okay, it's amazing. But I'm just saying like if you already know that you want to do product management, try to do something which is maybe like more focused to product management, less costly and less timely than an MBA.
Yeah, actually, in my case, I did an MBA, but it was for different reasons, right? As Edu says, like in my case, was about meeting this type of teachers, that actually they inspire a lot, and traveling and being abroad and learning from different people, and actually you have the opportunity to work in abroad, like in the semester. So for me, the most valuable thing I gained in the MBA was the cultural environment, the teachers with a lot of experience, but not in product, like in everything. And actually there were a lot of CEOs there, and you can relate a lot to what they tell you and the use cases and everything. So for me, it was more about that. And if you want to focus in product, as Edu said, it's maybe not, the most specific thing that you can do for product.
Yeah, what I've heard is I have some friends in London who have studied an MBA there, and apparently, like after finishing the MBA, a lot of people want to get into tech, and one way of doing this is getting into product management. And because you've done an MBA, maybe you'll have the chance to get into these big companies, as Edu was saying, like Amazon and things like that.
Certainly. Is it easy to get pigeonholed in product management? So if you've been a product manager working in, say, fintech, and you want to change industries, is that difficult, or do you find it's transferable?
In my case, I've been in payments always. And actually, I want to like try another field, but it's true that it's a bit hard because many people don't understand, I mean, your role. So they think that you know a lot about payments, and actually what you know, it's how to manage a product, right? And the methodologies and everything. So of course, I know a lot about fintech and about payments, but what I'm doing, I can actually take it to, I don't know, a different SaaS solution. I can go to InsurTech. I could do it and do the same type, of structure. But I think it's evolving, and especially tech people know that it doesn't have to do with the industry so much, but still there's a lot to do because the recruiters still they only contact you within the same field, right? But I think this also happens, in consultancy and different types of industry, that they encapsulate, your role, and it's like you are good in consultancy, so I'm going to hire you for consultancy. So
Me on that, yeah, I totally agree. I will say I changed like industry, and I think most, as Romy said, like most of the skills are transferable from one industry to another, because in the end, exactly as she mentioned, you are managing a product, and this is kind of irrelevant from if it's like, I don't know, a financial product or more like a travel product. Also, it's true that as also we mentioned before about like the industry, having like a good knowledge of the industry can be like a very good strengths, and sometimes that will be a prerequisite. For example, now that I've been kind of focusing in fintech, it's true that is a like banking is an industry that which is like strongly regulated, and then therefore like your product process will be very impacted by regulation, and this is something you need to take into account, and therefore they will try to bring people who come from a certain background. So I think like the more senior you get, the more they want someone from like a specific either industry, or if it's not an industry, I've have like done process where they're like, okay, and it's for an app, like a B2C app, and they will be like, how many years you have experience in B2C? Okay, you have, okay, it's okay, but how many years you have experience in B2C apps? And they're like, okay, no, we are looking for someone who have more experience with iOS apps or something like that. And yeah, me, it happened to me a lot for more like senior position, that they are looking for, which I can understand. So of course it's transferable, but of course me, if I don't know, I'm building the next like banking app, I would rather take someone who knows the industry, who already working there, whereas like someone who is working only on I don't know, consumer products that are like Instagram or something like that. But yeah, I don't know, but it did happen to me a lot.
but I think it happens with every role, what Edu's saying. Like they want you for your expertise, to say it in some way.
What's the interview process like? And so I want everyone to sort of reply to this one. It's an important question, and you guys are at various stages. Fernanda?
Yeah, for me, I recall the last one was first I had I think a call with a recruiter. Then I had an interview with I think it was the senior product manager of the team. After that, I got assigned like this challenge, like this presentation I had to do for them, like a fake case of a product. After delivering that, I went into another round to talk with the product director, I think, a bit for him to challenge my ideas and to get to know more about me. And then after that, if I had passed that round, because I didn't pass it, I would have been like the last interview with I think it was like the VP or something like that. So it's like yeah, like 3 different interviews and with different positions and with a challenge included.
Cool.
Yeah, in my case, I used to have more business cases and everything in a more junior position. I mean, it's normal, but then I think when you evolve in the industry, it was more about challenging you, but not in a business case ways, but in a realistic way. Like, look, we have this problem right now. What would you do to, I don't know, increase our sales? Or we want to innovate, but we have this problem. And in my case, it's been more like a challenge, but within a debate and a conversation.
Mm.
But before, it was different, I have to say. So it's been changing according to the way they perceive you. And yeah, the level of, I think, seniority, I believe. I don't know if Edu had the same experience.
So I think, yeah, it might be right, but me, I didn't feel it changed according to my seniority. I think it changed a bit according to how clear for the company their recruiting process are, and how clear is it for them, like who they want to recruit. So I will say, like, ideal scenario, which already happened to me, which will be you have like the recruiter call, then you have like one call with a product manager. He might like challenge you, do like product like cases. Then you will meet someone with the technical team, or like several people, but just one interview with the technical team. And then in the end, you have like a cultural fit interview with the CPO, and then you have the offer. So for me, it's like ideal scenario. I had like also worst case scenario, which is like I had like process where I had like 15 meetings, and it's just, they make you like interview like, I don't know, every single person in the company. Or I had like a case, yeah, I wouldn't name the company, but where they asked me like to work 3 days at the company for free. And I had to sign an NDA because I was not supposed like to steal information. But then when I asked, okay, so what happened with those 3 days? Like, do you pay like freelance? They're like, oh no, it's part of the recruitment process. Like, you're not gonna work on we're not gonna use your work because it's gonna be on thing, but still you need to sign an NDA, you know? So you have like the whole thing of the spectrum. But yes, ideally, I think it's what Fernanda mentioned, which is something with product, something with tech, something cultural, and that's it. But sometimes, because it's so key how well you interact with everyone, they want you to have meetings with everyone, and it can become like super, super long and painful.
And I wanted to add also that actually it's very important who's making the interview to you. Like, if it's someone that knows a lot about product or has this tech perspective, I believe the interview is more, realistic and more challenging actually. Then I found myself, for example, explaining my role to, the person actually doing the interview, and they are like super genuine. Like, they say, okay, so what can you do for us? And actually you are making them understand what they need, even in the interview. So it's funny. I mean, depending who's the one doing the interview and the background.
Cool. Okay, I have two additional questions, and I'm going to put them together because they're related. One is about how your career evolves. No, what are the different pathways you can get into? One direction is maybe to become a CPO, but there might be other directions. And in conjunction with that, salary, how that changes from your first year working as a product manager up until top CPO, just to get a sense of the salary range. And certainly that's also, I'm sure, dependent on country and industry, presumably. But if you can just give us a sense of the juicy stuff.
So to be honest, I don't think it's that transparent.
Yeah.
To know like the evolution from junior to like to senior. I think, of course, it varies a lot from which city you are. So, for example, me in the same company that we had like offices in Berlin and in Barcelona, like the salary difference were huge for the same type of role. So in Berlin,
yeah,
in Berlin, much higher than in Barcelona. I don't know, like I would say potentially from 70K to 30K, or something like that, to 70, from 40 to 70K, you know, based on location. And then also sometimes I've been approached like by London, like fintech. And I remember when you start like, okay, so what are your salary range? And the guy was like, okay, for a junior product manager. So I thought like in this company, junior product manager starting straight after university, it was like, yeah, I think it's between 90K with like 40K bonus. And I was like, oh my God, you know, because I was working in Barcelona and that was not my salary, you know? So yeah, for me, to be honest, I haven't seen a lot of transparency. And I think it differs a lot according to your company. It differs a lot according to your location. And it's true that, for example, now in Berlin, I have like a better understanding of the startup scene there. And now I know more or less like the range. So, you know, that, I don't know, I will just like throw numbers that are not fact-based, but imagine like a high lead senior product manager, maybe it's like between 60 and 100. Like mid, it will be between like 40 and 60, and junior, it will be something like that. And you have like more, I feel, from what my perception is, you had like more consistency from the salary for a product manager role and from the experience in the city than I experience in other markets where like the gaps were so big. It was very hard to get an understanding of the market.
Yeah, I think in Spain it's 40K and 50K, the average, which is not something bad. I mean, you always need to compare with the market, right? So I think it's good salary, I think, to make a living. And I think from there you can always grow. I mean, I think it's an industry that now it's evolving and you won't go backwards, you know? Like it's not a role that actually it's being going to to I don't know, like to decrease in sooner, like it's going to be the opposite, right? So I think now it's, if you find yourself in that interval, next year for sure you will be in the next one. I mean, of course you need to look for it, like everything, but in the like, even in any market, I think that the way that the world is evolving, this role is going to get more valuable with time.
Do those numbers hold up to your experience and research, Fernanda?
Yes, what Romina is saying, I think it's pretty accurate to my research in Barcelona.
Cool. Okay. I think this is the last question I have. So folks in the audience, if you want to add anything, now would be a good time to start putting it in the chat. Any top book recommendations for product management? Like if you want to get into product management, if you want to learn more about product management, you have to read this book. It's a classic.
For me, it would be The Lean Startup. I don't know. I think Edu also knows about this book, but
No, I was going to say the same one.
Yeah,
so.
I know. No, I mean, for me, it's not because there's only one book, but I think it's very complete. Like when there's one good book, there's one book good, like a good one, a classic one, and it has everything. So for me, that would be the main step. And also I'm like into blogging and platforms like Medium, where actually they have like publications about product, right? And a lot of senior product managers, they write there, and it's not a book, but it's very valuable, the content there in this type of platforms, which is only focused on product areas, and they post methodologies and how the market is changing, how they are changing the way they do product in their own company. So for me, it's also another source to learn.
Cool.
I actually, in my first chat with a product manager, I got recommended Inspire by Martin Kagan. It's also about product management and a very, like, I think, basic one. It explains everything really well.
Cool.
Yeah, I think one also which is very famous, it's like Hooked, because it just like it tried to explain you how to create like addictive product, and with like all the social dilemma like thingy, like with Netflix and Instagram and all those social networks, it become like very relevant. And then the Lean product playbook, I think it's kind of very, how do you say, almost like a class book. You know, if you want to get into product management and you want to have like a curriculum of everything you have to know about it, I think it's a very good first approach. But I will go with Romina if there is only one.
If you could start over, right? Start knowing what you know now, having been in the field for a while, is there anything that you would have done differently?
In my case, maybe because I just jumped into the world when actually there was still beginning this position. So I just, I just went to my first experience as a product manager, and I didn't prepare myself before. So potentially, maybe I should have used my time when I was thinking about it to actually explore and do a little course, maybe, talk to more people and get a bit of a, I don't know, a perspective even from books, because it's true that it was something new. So I just jumped into the experience, right? So I had to learn while I was working.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Me, I will say like market myself like before, because as we mentioned, like in the end, most of the people, they can become like product manager, and you can be scared by, as Fernanda mentioned, like the requisite in the job specs, and in the end it's just like marketing yourself, and you can jump into the field. So I will have market myself like before.
Cool, thanks.
For me, I don't know, maybe the future will tell. Right now I'm not sure.
Cool. Feel free, anyone, to unmute yourself and ask a question. Okay, I'm going to read this out loud. You guys talked about how one can transition into product management no matter their background, but as a product designer, when I look up job openings in Sweden, most of them require a very techie software engineering, data science, and even math or business background, marketing, growth, MBA degree. Do you guys believe this is something that is changing? In other words, do you see there is growing demand for this type of background? Thanks, Eddie.
Yeah, I think, which is true, I think I see a trend of asking for more and more like specialized product management, where they would like, exactly as he mentioned, like data science product management or growth product management. But I still believe there are roles that are either like a general product management, or if you are like a designer, like even like more design, like product designer type of role. And so what I will advise is, as I mentioned, like maybe in your company, try to look if you can switch to this role. And then if not, I will say, try to see if you can explain some of the projects that you did in with a product perspective, or maybe like launch a certain project, but just as a portfolio, I will say, to showcase that you could be like a very good product manager. Because like MBA degree, the one that asks like MBA degree, I don't think like MBA is like very generic information about like business, finance, marketing, everything, but you don't specialize in anything, I guess. So I think you could apply to those type of jobs.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, being from a technical background, I think that what companies want to mean when they say technical background, I don't think it's something really like techie. Like you don't need to program. It's more about your mindset, you know? And I think that's what they want to say. Like you need to be very engineer in terms of being structured and know how to organize, how to have everything, you know, on track, and have a strong discipline. And I think it's more like companies put it all together, like you need to be technical, but it's more about the soft skills. Because from my case, I'm not doing something techie, you know?
I might also add that it's a privilege for a company to have a lot of different staff who are specialized. And so maybe that reflects the needs of a more mature company. And on the flip side, a startup that doesn't have a lot of resource needs someone who can actually do a lot of different things. And so maybe it just means strategizing on what kind of companies you target. Some more questions. Okay, so happy to wrap up now. This will be recorded, so if you missed some part of tonight, you can access it again. Certainly feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn, and if there's anything else that you would like to learn about in the future, certainly shoot me an email and we can try to arrange it. Other than that, have a good evening and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Katrina, for hosting the event.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Ciao.
Nice to see you all.
Bye-bye.